Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy video blog. It is August 24th, 2018. Now, for this segment, I am going to talk about how both the political and economic aspects of climate change response and clean energy advancement are expanding and growing in the US. In particular, I'm going to highlight some recent trends that have been highlighted by new research with regards to wind energy and provide a context of the overall US energy picture in relationship to those trends, as well as talk about some big policy initiatives that are ongoing in California, as well as some calls by mayors of California cities to halt fossil fuel extraction in the state of California. So first, I'd like to highlight this article from Inside Climate News entitled, "The US Wind Power is Going All Out with Bigger Tech Falling Prices, According to Recent Reports." And some of the highlights from these reports showed that the country's wind energy capacity has tripled over the past decade, reaching nearly 90 gigawatts in early to mid 2018, with wind contributing 6.3% of the nation's electricity supply last year. It's also worth noting that the average price of wind power sales have dropped to about 2 cents per kilowatt hour, which is less expensive than most coal plants and less expensive than a number of natural gas plants as well. So wind is certainly very competitive and is now the third largest source of US electrical generation capacity in the US, behind coal and natural gas. So overall, it's worth noting that the United States has seen a plateau or peak in total electricity consumption. This due to increased efficiency, and I think in part due to a degree of solar panel generation adoption by homes and businesses. It's worth noting that overall renewable energy is more efficient, so there's also a general, I'd say, a synergy between renewable energy and efficiency, in that renewable energy tends to encourage efficiency. So the more renewable energy you deploy, the more impetus there is to use less energy. So there's a bit of a handshake there. Now, given the fact that US electricity consumption has plateaued, any major new adds for wind and solar are going to have a reducing effect on fossil fuel burning, resulting in either idling of coal and natural gas plants or making those plants less economical, particularly in the case where wind energy and solar energy outcompete fossil fuel energy on price, as is the case more and more so as we go forward. So some good news with regards to wind energy, which is now of which the total capacity is now 3 times as large as it was just a decade ago, showing how much potential wind energy has to grow. So just as a comparison with other fuel sources, it's worth noting that total natural gas fuel sources represent about 462 gigawatts of capacity, and total coal installations represent about 250 gigawatts of capacity. So for wind to overtake coal or natural gas. It still has a long way to go, but this represents a big opportunity for the U.S. to reduce carbon emissions, climate change driving carbon emissions, which are pushing us into a more and more difficult climate situation overall. If wind were to triple again over the next decade, which is possible, but it would take some rather aggressive policies to do that, it would overtake coal in a net capacity role. So some good news for wind. Tripling in 1 decade is major growth. Now, I also like to call your attention to a number of bills that are presently ongoing in the clean energy leader state of California. And these bills will be voted on in the next 10 days by California lawmakers. They include Assembly Bill 893, State Bill 100, and Assembly Bill 813, all of which would aim to increase California's renewable energy generation capacity, to set goals for gaining 100% of electricity from climate-friendly sources, and to set additional goals for adding new wind and new solar and geothermal over the coming years. So if you're living in California and you are a clean energy supporter, I urge you to contact your lawmakers. I also urge you to read this article by Sammy Roth in the Desert Sun, which takes a look at the present pathway for bills moving through state houses and local houses. So, in addition to the bills that are now moving through California's state Congress and state legislatures, there are a number of mayors that are partnering with 350.org in urging Governor Brown to end fossil fuel production in California overall. And these mayors are in regions that have been negatively impacted by the toxic consequences of fossil fuel production. And in addition to this fact, it's worth noting that communities across California are at increased risk from wildfires fueled by human-caused climate change as a result of fossil fuel burning and the added heat-trapping gases that have been pumped into the Earth's atmosphere. So just an overview of some present clean energy trends, both in the economic area and in the political arena. And it's worth noting, I just like to note that the politics of climate change are very important. Whether or not we have clean energy leaders in state legislatures, as mayors in cities, and as representatives and as leaders in the federal government, help to determine the trajectory of the United States in its response of climate change. And the more climate leaders we have, the better off we will be. So thank you for joining me, and I will be chatting with you soon.